Ready to drive with confidence? Arroyo Driving School helps teens and adults become safe, skilled drivers. Our certified instructors teach the latest techniques to ensure you're prepared for any road. With quality vehicles and hands-on training, we give you the skills to drive responsibly. Get started today.
What's up, everybody? We are here for our first episode of Behind the Scenes with Coach Steven Najera. I'm Kevin Naro. How's it going?
Good, Kevin. Good to see you.
I promise you that this show had been scheduled a long time ago.
Right.
Sammy was like, "Hey, you guys have the show today," and I said, "I promise you." Last week was spring break.
Right.
The week before, you were on an encounter
Right.
trip, so you were gone. The week before that, I was in Round Rock with soccer.
Right.
The week before that, you were in Santa Rosa at the tournament.
Right. Tournament.
So we've been long waiting to have this show. We were able to have it today in the Student Center, and
Right.
the plan is to have this actually out on the field.
Right. Yeah. Weather.
The
right?
weather. So yeah, the weather is just kind of iffy right now. So we didn't want to risk
Right.
being caught outside in the rain.
Right.
So I said we'll just do it inside here in the Student Center. But going forward, it's going to be every Thursday at 3 o'clock, and then we will be, weather permitting, we'll be out there on the field.
Right.
So, I'm excited to be here. I know you're excited
Yes.
to be here. Happy opening day.
Thank you. Yeah. Happy opening day. That's right. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to my Red Sox today against the Rangers.
Absolutely, yeah. So it just happens to be the first day we're able to kick off this show, and it's also the first day for Major League Baseball.
Right.
And just, what were your nerves? Were there any last night, just knowing that baseball's back? Any butterflies?
Well, there's a lot of question marks around my Red Sox. So, they had a pretty decent offseason, which was a nice change from the last few years. So they brought in some much-needed arms that we needed, and a couple of young guys coming up. And then, of course, we signed your old third baseman, which I know you have mixed feelings about.
I do. I do.
But there's a lot of reason, and that's why I love opening day, because everybody starts out with the same record,
Yep.
And it's all about optimism. It's all about. So I'm hoping to see some good baseball in the months to come.
Crochets, a lot of people are expecting him to. A lot of people are picking him to win the Cy Young.
Yeah,
this year,
I'd like to
Crochet.
see that. Yeah, and it's going to be a really good matchup tonight because he's going against Uvalde. So, again, that kind of hurt us down the stretch last year. Right? Kind of hurt the Red Sox down the stretch last year, and then the bullpen. And so we picked up a couple of bullpen arms. So I'm looking forward to see what Crochet can do. Not sure. Did they already sign him, or is it still in the works? Because sign him to an extension, because that was something that they were talking about.
Crochet?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Not yet, but I know that it's in the works. Hopefully they'll sign him in the next few days for a long-term contract, and that'll be good for shoring up that staff.
Yeah, my only question with Crochet was that he's a bullpen guy.
Yeah.
by trade, and a lot of you get those max innings.
Right.
These guys can start off hot.
Yeah.
Right now in April, May, but once we get to July, August, September,
Right.
some of those guys can.
Well, and the good thing is that we kind of went from the Red Sox went from having a shortage of arms to kind of like a surplus of arms, and so there was a time when they were toying with the notion of having like a six-man rotation,
Yeah.
which has its pros and cons. But one of the pros, right, is that you get to preserve these arms for the dog days of summer and
Yeah.
then the later months
Yeah.
moving in. So we'll see. If I have the utmost confidence in Cora. He's a manager that I kind of look up to as far as knowing the X's and O's and really being able to read the room and his players. So if anybody can kind of protect Crochet and kind of manage him for hopefully the postseason, I think Cora can.
And then you signed Walker Buehler,
Right.
who's a guy that I think that's a bigger addition than most people will think, and I think it
Yeah.
kind of flew under the radar once they got Crochet.
Right.
Because when Buehler was on with the Dodgers, he
Yeah.
was on.
Yeah.
It was-
Through the last pitch of the World Series last year, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes, he
so,
did. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that when he did come back, he looked really, really good, and I think that's kind of what was that selling point for the Red Sox front office is that, hey, he looked really good at the end of last season and taking a chance on him. So
Absolutely, and then of course, you signed Bregman. That was
Right.
a big deal. But then I forgot to share that I saw the update just the other day, or it might have been yesterday, that they're moving Devers officially to DH and they're putting Bregman.
I'm
at
going to
third.
tell you, I always knew that they were going to do that. I mean, and we had a conversation about this off air, right? But we talked about how I think that he was railroaded a little bit by the media. I think
Yeah.
it was a language issue there as well. But
Yeah.
I know, I took it as that when they asked him how he felt about moving down from third or moving off of third, he was like, no, I don't want to. but I kind of knew he's a Red Sox guy. They signed him as a teenager.
Yeah.
They signed him to a long-term contract, last year. So I always kind of figured that Cora was going to kind of bring him in the room. And I like Cora's quote. He said, "Hey, we're in the winning business.
Yes.
We're not in the necessarily making a player happy business."
Right.
And Devers wants to win. He's a competitor and he wants to win. So I'm glad it's kind of moving that way. And I kind of had my hopes and I thought that it was going to happen.
I mean, how do you not want to take a DH role? Like, man, like your job is now just to solely hit. Like, that's an easy job.
Exactly, and not only that, but I really think that now that they've taken that kind of away from him and just kind of have him focus on hitting, I think he's going to have a bump up. I think he's going to have a great year. I think his stats were great last year, but I think he's going to have a bigger year this year. You saw that with like J.D. Martinez when they moved him to DH, and I'm hoping that that's going to have a similar effect. Plus, it always helps when you got a guy like Bregman hitting behind you for that protection. So.
Yeah.
Cora's already said Devers going to be hitting in the 2 slot, and then and Bregman's going to be hitting in the 3 hole. So he's going to be seeing some good pitches to hit.
That's going to be a stacked lineup for sure. And
Yeah.
then the East is still going to be really competitive.
Right. Yeah.
The Orioles, you're just kind of waiting for them to fully break down the door.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to be competitive. I know they're pitching. They lost Corbin Burns, and I know their pitching's going to be a little bit of a question mark. But they have so much offensively.
Yeah, they do, and they're young and they're hungry, and there's that saying like they don't know any better. So they're they're just playing, and that's great. That's a great formula. The Yankees, I know Garrett Cole had that that unfortunate news, but they're still going to be tough too. So and then the Blue Jays kind of reloaded a little bit. So I think that last year was kind of an anomaly as far as how bad their season went, but. It's gonna be a tough race in a lot of ways. That AL East kind of reminds me, or I can see a correlation between our district, here because it's kind of one of those seasons where anybody can beat anybody at any given time, and who's playing hot at the moment, and I kind of see that with the AL East as well. It's just going to be a dogfight to the end.
Yeah, and Tampa, you can always bet that they're going to have good pitching.
Yeah,
Tampa Bay.
Yeah, that's what and then that's kind of like the thing with them, and you kind of hate to see it, but they're always going to develop great players. They have a great development program, and then they're going to see those players go away.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just what it is. But they're always going to be competitive. They have a really good farm system. Their manager's great, and so they're always going to be in there too.
World Series prediction?
Well, hot take, right? I'm gonna say the Dodgers again. I know. I want to say the Astros. You know more about how they reloaded in the offseason, but it's just the Dodgers are just too stacked for me at this point to not pick them. In the American League, I didn't do it last year, but why not? I'm going to take my Red Sox. I think we're going to do it. We'll see.
Yeah, why not? I mean, it's all right in front of them, and I'm sure there'll be some additions they can make at the trade deadline.
Yeah, and hopefully their front office continues that. They've said repeatedly that they're trying to make a strong push and commitment to winning, getting back into the playoffs and beyond. So I'm going to hold them to it, and hopefully they do it.
I think I'm going to go a World Series rematch.
Okay.
Phillies Astros.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, well, you know what? That's right. I forgot about the Phillies. Good, solid club. And the Astros, I'm guessing they made some good moves in the offseason.
They did. And they're going to need to make some moves at the trade deadline if they're going to want to really compete. But I think they're going to be a lot better than people think. Adding Christian Walker is a major upgrade at first base.
Right.
Paredes is going to be starting at third, and then Cam Smith.
Yeah.
I think he just might be the real deal, and a lot of people are picking him to win the American League Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
If that guy can really come up and play the way they think he can, that's just going to make that team so much better.
Now let me ask you, as a very informed fan, you like Altuve in left?
Not really. Not really, I don't. But, and I was even wondering, and I think I may have told you this the other day. Well, see, like today they're starting Brendan Rodgers at second base.
Right.
And I was like, I thought Dubon was going to be the starting second baseman.
Exactly. That was the whole point of
that was
moving
the whole point. So
right.
I'm like, if that's the case, then why don't you just put Dubon in left, and then you put Altuve at second?
Right, yeah.
But here's the thing. I think give it to my birthday, Memorial Day.
Right.
Altuve will be back at second base.
You think so? Yeah, maybe.
He'll be maybe even sooner. The experiment may not work out as well as they think they do.
Right.
But I just think that it's not a for sure thing that he's going to be the everyday left fielder.
Right.
I think eventually they'll be able to move him back, especially now with Cam Smith. That changes a lot of things.
Yeah.
Putting him back in right, and then you can always put McCormick in left, or you can put Zach DeZenzo is another name that I think a lot of people are kind of sleeping on. He had a really good spring.
Yeah.
He can play the corner outfield. He can also play a little bit of first base. So
Yeah, and that's kind of like the way the league is moving now, right? It's like how many, gone are the days where I'm just going to play here every day, unless you're a superstar. But
right.
the fill-in guys, if you can
Yeah.
play infield, outfield, you're really going to increase your marketability.
Yeah, the flexibility is what I really like.
Yeah.
But this can also play second if he needs to.
Hmm.
I mean, the question mark is really still the outfield.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of what ifs, and if there's a weakness there, it's the outfield.
Right.
Today I was talking to my group chat with some of my family, and they're like, "Man, like, what about the pitching?" And I'm like, "Believe it or not, it's actually a strength."
Yeah.
They're 5 deep in the rotation
Good.
going into today. Hopefully, McCullers, I know he's going to have a rehab start this weekend. Hopefully he can come back soon rather than later.
What's his timeline?
Well, he has his first rehab start Sunday.
Oh,
Sugar
okay.
Land. So I would say, give it a month, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
3
That's
weeks to a
usually,
month.
right.
He had that. He got some work in at spring training, and then has that AAA start at Sugar Land on Sunday. So,
Oh, okay.
Christian Javier is another wild card.
Mhm.
Hopefully, I'm estimating him by at least the All-Star break.
Hmm.
The scary thing is Luis Garcia. They're going to get a second opinion on his elbow.
Oh, yeah.
So that might not be a good thing. But Forrest Whitley is
Right.
expected this year to make a splash. Caleb Ort. Those two guys out of the bullpen.
Caleb
should
Ort,
be-
famous former Red Sox.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's got some.
Yeah, he's got something.
Yeah, he's got some gas on him.
Good arm coming out of the pen.
Yeah, so I think and the Rangers. I think they're going to be boom or bust.
Yeah.
They're either going to be really, really good or they're not going to be very good.
Yeah.
But I still think they're going to hit the ball really well.
That's what they do. Yeah.
Yeah, and their pitching's questionable.
Hmm.
The Angels are still very young.
Right.
But they got Wash there, who's
Right. He's
managed
going to
the-
build something. Yeah.
Yeah, But I mean, I think they're probably good for maybe 60 wins. I think the A's are going to be the most improved team.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing with the A's. If that new management is going to be, willing to put the money in and make them competitive, then that's going to. Yeah.
And then the Mariners. The Mariners have really good pitching, but they didn't do anything to improve their offense.
No.
They
no.
didn't do anything. They
Right.
didn't sign anybody. I mean, they still have Rosarena. They still have Julio Rodriguez, but I mean,
Yeah.
It's-
They pulled the Red Sox from the last couple of years. So
they're just going to.
They should have
on
asked them how
pitching.
that worked out. That's exactly right. But
yeah.
they're going to have to win a lot of one-run games.
Yeah,
That's
but
gonna
I think the Phillies in the National League. I think everyone's buying the Dodgers, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
And then you still have the Mets.
Yeah.
They're going to be very, very good.
Yeah.
I mean that NL East is going to be.
They're stacked.
It's stacked. You got the Braves. The
Mhm.
Braves are due for a bounce back year.
Right.
They got Acuna back and healthy.
And they just signed. They just signed Verdugo.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
is-
we
I
were
thought
talking
was a
about it the other
very
day.
odd-
Yeah, because I was like, why didn't the Astros just sign him, stick him out?
He's
on
not a
left?
good,
But
from what I read, he's not a very good locker room guy. So maybe that's why some teams kind of
yeah,
stayed away from that.
yeah,
but
for sure. Yeah, any traditions you have? I know I told you I caught Moneyball last night, of course.
No, you know
No, you
what?
just-
Yeah, no, I just my tradition. So when we get done with practice today, I'll go home, and everybody knows opening day. They kind of just leave me alone, and I'll watch my replay of the Sox when I
Yeah.
get home. So yeah.
For sure. Absolutely. Well, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to break down more Bloodhound baseball, and we're going to talk about where we're at and the direction we're going, and we're going to get you up to speed with everything having to do with Bloodhound baseball. When we come back, this is Behind the Scenes.
Ready to drive with confidence? Arroyo Driving School helps teens and adults become safe, skilled drivers. Our certified instructors teach the latest techniques to ensure you're prepared for any road. With quality vehicles and hands-on training, we give you the skills to drive responsibly. Get started today.
The standard of excellence has always been Cadillac, so be iconic and drive one. Free your Cadillac, Brownsville, Texas.
If you or someone you know is planning to retire within 6 to 12 months, please call Joe D. Garcia. Federal, city, county, state employees, and small business owners, we have you covered. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Call Joe D. Garcia from Blanket Retirement Services, 956-276-4943.
I'm Joe D. Garcia.
And I'm Rolando Trevino.
And we are Blanket Retirement Services. We have you covered.
Welcome back to Behind the Scenes. I'm Kevin. That's Coach Najera. Our first episode of Behind the Scenes. We're live in the Student Center on a Thursday afternoon. It's opening day for baseball, but the Bloodhounds, they've been, this baseball season's been in full swing and then some. Just to get you all up to speed, right now the Bloodhounds are currently in the middle of district play, coming off a tough loss this past Saturday against Victoria's St. Joe. But St. Joe does have a couple of district wins racked up in front of them with the St. Anthony's win and then the Laredo win. Losses against San Antonio Christian and Victoria. So right now, sitting right at the 500 mark.
Right.
But the thing we do know is that we've seen, everyone's already taken a loss this year. We lost to Saks, but then they turn around, they lose to St. Mary's.
Right.
Laredo turns around and beats St. Mary's. We beat Laredo.
Right.
Victoria beat us. Yeah. So we're just kind of seeing a little bit of everything so far. So just my first question to you is just what's been your thoughts of the parity that we've seen so far in the first few weeks?
Well, yeah, I mean, parity is a good word for it because it's just it's one of those seasons where you don't have a clear-cut front runner. We're going to finish up our first round, weather permitting, on Saturday, and what I've seen so far, it's all the teams are pretty much evenly matched from what I can see. Pitching is pretty comparable for all the teams, hitters, so it's not that the level is down. It's that I think everybody's kind of leveled up a little bit, and I thought going into the season that even though we lost some key seniors last year, that we were going to have a good mix of vets and some veteran players and some youngsters that were going to make us competitive. But what we've seen is teams that traditionally in our district had not been competitive, like take a Laredo, are very, very competitive. So we were talking earlier about MLB teams kind of reloading, and we see some good, strong talent coming into Laredo, surprised us. And they've already picked up, kind of like a signature win for the season anyway. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be a dogfight to the very end. And right now, I keep telling my boys, we're right in the thick of it right now. I think maybe a game or a game and a half back. So it's going to be that way, I think, to the very end. And hopefully we can play our best baseball moving forward to give ourselves a shot going into the last week of the season.
Absolutely. And the thing, too, for those that don't know, it's the same situation as basketball. Only 3 teams make the playoffs. So it's not your traditional 4 where you have a little bit of wiggle room. Right. At least I did the math in my brain, and I was saying, I think 6 wins gets you in. And when you're looking at the sample size of the district season, you have those 2 wins. And, we have the St. Mary's on Saturday.
Right.
And then we restart the second round of district play.
Right.
We're home to Laredo, and then we're home to Saks that Saturday.
Right.
So the next 3 games are at home, and I think that bodes well.
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret that we play a lot better at home for whatever reason, and I know that's usually should be the case. But we like our field. We like, we like the way we play here. The boys are really comfortable and confident here, so we have this little mini homestand, and I'm really hoping that we can put together, a couple of wins. And I'm with you. I think that 5 wins puts you in the hunt, but I think 6 wins makes you pretty comfortable going in. The way I operate is, I mean, I always have lofty goals, but at the same time, I have measured goals. And so my whole thing is, when we start off a season, I'm always like, okay, what is it going to take us to get us in? When we reach that goal, then we set other goals, or we put our aim on another goal, right? How far can we get up in the seeding? Can we win district? Things like that. Yeah. But I'm with you. I think that with the team that we have right now, a young team, trying to find their sea legs. And again, we're only 4 games in, so 2-2 is good. I mean, I'll take it for that young team that we have. I'll take the 2-2, but we have to make a little run right now to put ourselves in a good position. Again, so it's not as tight going into the very end, where hopefully we don't see a scenario like we did last year where we end up having to play a play-in game.
Yep. Yeah, no, for sure. And, going into the St. Mary's matchup, the offense, I think the strong suit we've seen more good than bad in the pitching department.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that our MO right now is to win games in baseball. There's three things that primarily that you look at, right? Pitching, defense, and hitting, not necessarily in that order. And the thing is that I feel our pitching, especially when we have Gael Ponce on the mound, he gives us a very, very good chance to win. And so our pitching has been on point. We have some good youngsters like Axel Gonzalez, who's only a sophomore, but he's his pitching is above his years. And then we have some other guys that are coming through. Like right now, we have Gavin, who threw a little bit in our kind of like just a tune-up game against. Tune-up game. It was a great game. They're a great opponent, but against Los Fresnos that we had a couple of days ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw some promising things there. As a coach, I take a game like that, and the way that I see it is that we can only get better from playing against a top program like that in the state. And so I saw some promising things from Gavin Cisneros, junior. I saw some promising things from Izzy Cano, also a junior. And they can help us on the mound. We're going to need them going down the stretch. So pitching, I feel that we're in a good place. And then defense, and we've talked about this, it always seems like we're making maybe 0 to 2 errors a game, which for high school baseball is great. That's where you want to be. Our defense is good. We know what we want to do. What we need to do is get the bats going. And we're not striking out a lot during games, 4 to 6 times a game. But at the same time, we're not finding holes in the defense. And I know the boys get a little frustrated. I get frustrated. But what I'm preaching to them is just continue to hit the ball hard, and good things are going to happen. But at some point, soon has to become now. So,
yes.
And that's the thing, is that I feel okay, but I don't like playing, and I'm sure as a coach, there's only so many antacids I can take during one-run games, because then your margin for error really becomes slim to none. When you're playing one-run games, any one thing can derail the whole thing. So. That's kind of, I'm waiting for an offensive explosion, and I'm hoping that we get it, soon, like maybe on Saturday.
Yeah, that'd be great. It could be here on Saturday. I think I was telling Coach Bruneda on the way back was that I said I think we're in a good spot because I think it's far harder to rally together the pitching than it is the hitting.
Right.
Because the hitting, to me in my brain, I've always thought that it'll come.
Yeah.
You just got to keep swinging and take good approaches.
Right.
But the fact that I'd rather have this problem than have a pitching problem, because I think the pitching, like I said, it's been a strong suit of ours with Gael, and we've seen Axel come along. But I think the offense, it's just a matter of just getting a hit or two, and then it becomes contagious.
Yeah, exactly.
The hitting's contagious. All it's for me, and my sister gets so annoyed because I'm just like, all it takes is one.
That's it.
All it takes is one. Hitting can become contagious, and then by the time you know it, you guys. But you're right. Kind of running out of time.
Yeah, got it.
Sort of, kind of. It'd be good to kind of find the bats rather sooner than later. But I want to talk about Gael for just a minute.
Okay.
Just how well he's pitched this year, and just how he's just kind of changed his game. And I know he got into much better shape over the off season.
Yeah, I mean he's a rock. I mean that guy. He's mentally tough, right? And he's such a competitor out there, a quiet competitor. But when he's on the mound, he definitely gives us our best chance to win. As far as what I love that he's done this year, like you said, he's gotten in better shape than he was last year, and I haven't seen that drop off at the midway point, velocity-wise or pitch movement-wise. So he's locked in right now, and one of the other things that I am really happy that he's doing now is he's really attacking the zone. Mm-hmm. And for those that are watching that may not understand why that's important, because we have very, very strict, and rightfully so, we have very strict pitch count limits for pitchers. Yeah. So when you are like the workhorse of a team, like in Gael is our horse, I always preach to him, attack the zone. If we can get guys out in 3 or 4 pitches as opposed to 6 or 7, that's going to pay dividends in the later innings. And I've seen a better job. Like 2 games already that he's pitched for district this year, he's come within 1 out of completing the game. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what we want. Just keep us in the game, give us a shot, and then give the guys, keep the game close. so that the guys can hopefully produce some runs for him, and then we take out a victory.
Yeah, he was on fire. That Hannah Laredo
Mhm.
game, he had 11 strikeouts against
Yeah.
Hannah, and he topped it with 13 against Laredo in the
Right.
district opener. And yeah, he went 7 innings, and then he went 6 2/3 in that second. Was
And
like
yeah,
just a couple of pitches off from going back to back complete games. What I like too is he's trimmed his walks down
right.
by almost double.
Yeah.
I remember last year walks was a little bit of an issue for
Right.
him, particularly in the first 2 innings.
Yeah.
Really couldn't. I noticed that when he didn't have command of his curveball, that kind of was a bad sign. But
Yeah.
he's the kind of guy that once that engine revs up,
Yeah, once he gets going, third inning is usually the magic inning where we're going to
Yeah.
see what he's going to be for the rest of the game. But yeah, but you're right, and that's the key. We talk about pitch counts and keeping your pitches down. One of the things that we preach is being wild in the zone. And the other thing that's kind of like goes under the radar is that Gael has really worked in a third pitch. Well, actually, he's got four, but the slider has really been working for him this year, and so. As a pitcher, where that becomes very important is when you get on there, you're not always going to have your best stuff.
Right.
And so now, if that curveball is not working, which we saw a little bit in the Laredo game, he kind of went away from the curveball and then started going to his slider, and that's where he was getting his Ks. That's where he was getting his groundouts. So having that third pitch to rely on if you need it, right? If your second pitch is not exactly where it should be, then that's been huge for him.
absolutely, he's come on strong this year, and like I said, he's been the horse. What have some other pleasant surprises that you've seen this year that maybe you guys didn't pencil in and they've just
Well,
come on strong?
one of the things that we always say is that kind of God always gives us one that we weren't expecting every season, and we've had that for the last 4 or 5 years for sure. The youngsters have been contributing, which is good. So, for example, like Robbie, our sophomore, Robbie Ortiz, has been hitting the ball very well, and he's kind of been that bright spot. So I'd say he's kind of like a surprise. But, again, we always joke that St. Joe baseball, St. Joe sports in general, we just kind of throw these athletes in the deep end.
Yeah.
That's the way it
Yeah.
works, you
Yep.
know.
Yep.
So a lot of these guys, maybe in a bigger program in a bigger school, might be JV guys for a couple years, but here we'll throw them in and sink or swim, right? So Robbie's been one of those guys. Felipe Villarreal, our freshman catcher, is been doing a great job, and you cannot. If you don't really know the ins and outs of baseball, you just kind of see it and say, well, that's interesting. You got this young kid there, it's kind of skinny kid. But just the fact that he can command a game and catch Gael Ponce, who, when he humps it up, can really throw in the mid to high 80s.
Yep.
And Felipe, who we'll call him Pato because that's his nickname, Pato can do that. It really speaks a lot because that is one of the most, if not the most difficult position defensively on the field. So he's been a good surprise. Rex, we're asking a lot of him to kind of, middle infield is tough to play. He's done a decent job holding those spots down when we need him in different spots. So those are the surprises in the sense that I didn't expect them out of the gate to be as productive or as they've been. But I don't know if I'd say surprises because I knew that they could play. But to see them playing well and with confidence, and that's kind of what we were talking about the other day, is that it doesn't seem like they're not scared of the lights, right?
Yeah.
So they've been playing well. Now, the other positives that I've seen is, Axel kind of made a big jump as well on the mound. He was a good guy out of the bullpen last year, but again, very young. His sophomore year, he's cut down on his walks because of some of the mechanical changes he's done. Lalo Braunschweiger, again, that guy is fantastic in the sense that I love his quiet work ethic.
Yeah.
Like, he's a guy that if you send him to do a drill, I don't have to look over my shoulder like, oh, is Lalo doing? No, Lalo will. I don't even have to ask him to do it.
Yeah.
If I say, hey, guys, we're going to the cage to do some hitting work,
Yeah.
Lalo goes and does it. And he's the first one out there. And that's the kind of leadership that our youngsters need to look up to, right? And then, of course, Emmanuel Manny, our first baseman, you know this. You're a baseball guy. If you have a good first baseman, he saved so many errors. And he did that. We saw that against Los Fresnos. There were 2 throws that were up the line that he comes off the bag, makes a good catch, and then has the wherewithal to make a good tag on the runner coming to first. And he's excellent defensively. He's hitting the ball okay. He started off hot, kind of cooled off a little bit, but I know that it's there, and I'm expecting it to come back. But again, you know, those guys are like that core of that infield. And then, of course, the outfield. Want to talk about a surprise? Not a surprise because I knew he had it in him, but I'm really happy with the progress that Izzy's made in the outfield. I already knew he had a gun. He's got a great arm. But I'm really very impressed with the way he's been able to cover the field in the outfield. And then, of course, having Gavin next to him in center field, you know, that's kind of like as close to a no-fly zone as we can have.
Just about,
and then, you know, guys like Robbie, guys like Roman that are you know, getting to be solid defensively. And that's kind of what you're seeing, Kevin, is before the mark of our teams were, you know, oh, man, we'd score a few runs, but, man, we'd have 5 or 6 errors because we just had guys that were, you know, they were doing the best they could, but we just weren't very solid defensively. And now we're seeing that we're not shooting ourselves in the foot. And that helps so much, especially when you're not scoring a lot of runs at the plate.
Yeah, for sure. Talking about the youth and everything that we've seen, and you know, and talking about Braunschweiger, and I think he's just a guy that leads by example. Yeah. You're trying to find a word for him because he's not vocal.
Right, not at all.
But you know, we've seen him so many times where you know he just kind of goes off to the side and he starts doing warm ups, and you know, we saw it yesterday when after Ponce threw his bullpen, he kind of just went off to the side, put his little hoodie on, and went for his jog. And I'm just like, those are things you don't coach or you can't teach. Like you know that he knows what he has to do, and he's gonna go out, he's gonna get his work in. I mean, he's just a veteran. Those are all just veteran moves, and it's good to have that. You know, because you know you lose a guy like Cano last year, who was, like you said, he was the heartbeat last year of the team. But you know, you have guys that, you know, Ponce who he can look intimidating, right? If you're a youngster, but I think he's been a very good a leader, a good role model
100%.
to the younger guys. And I was telling you the other day that I think he's really taken little JP JP under his wing and just kind of, you know, being able to work with him. There's another kid that I think that's
thank you for reminding me about JP because and JP's another guy that, you know, I forget to mention him just because he's another guy that's very quiet. But again, that guy, he's JP Garcia finding his way on the mound, and he's one that, you want to talk about a surprise. That's 100% a surprise for me because he threw for the JV last year, and we knew he could throw strikes. But he's a kid that I know dedicated himself all off season to putting in the work, and he's attacking the zone. His stuff is very good because right now, just at his age, he's not a guy that's going to blow you away with his velocity. But he's going to spot the ball where he wants to put it, and he's going to move the ball just enough to make you mishit it. And then if our defense does its job, then he's doing his job. And big surprise coming from him, a pleasant surprise.
We talked about, you know, the flexibility on being able to move guys everywhere. I talked about it the other day in the Los Fresnos game that I think we had maybe 5 position changes, and I think that's a very under the radar thing that we got going with. Where you had Lalo in left, and then you moved him to center. Izzy from right to third. Axel from third to the mound. Gael from the mound to short. Rex from short to second. You know, these kids can just play so many positions, and that's hard to find because usually you have 1 or 2, maybe 2 guys that can be a utility. But here, we got kids that can play multiple positions, and I know that makes your life a lot easier.
Sure, and it's one of the things that we preach also because one of the things that, you know, I know from talking to coaches that coach youth baseball, one of the things that I, you know, tell the coaches, and then also when I have the opportunity to speak to the kids, is letting them know that, hey, when you get to the high school level, the more positions that you can play is the best route to making sure that you're going to get on the field as soon as you can. Because let's say you play shortstop your whole life because that's the very popular position, right? I want to play shortstop. And so you only play shortstop. But guess what? You get to high school, maybe your coach doesn't need a shortstop. Maybe he needs a right fielder. Maybe he needs a left fielder. So can you play those positions? Talking about even the pros do it. Look at Altuve making that transition to left field. The more positions that you can play, not only is it beneficial for you, but it's also beneficial for your team. So me as a coach, having those pieces that I can move around the board is very beneficial. And one of the ones you didn't notice, just because Pato's done a great job of locking that position down, but I've had Ponce catch this year. I've had Izicano catch this year. So again, I have guys that I can move around, and that has not been a luxury that I've had in years past.
Right. Yeah, and Ponce didn't look that bad behind the plate. And you made a good point. Was it the Sacks game? He started at it was a Sacks game. He started at catcher. And you made a very good point. You said it's also good to just have a starting pitcher call the game for me from behind the plate, because that guy between the ears is
that's one where I can tell him, you know what, you're going to drive, and if you need so what I normally try to do before the game is I talk to my starting pitcher and my catcher, and I say, okay, coming out of the bullpen, okay, what's working for you? How do you want to set up hitters? That helps me call a game. That game, I just got to tell Ponce, you know what, you warmed him up, you drive, and then I'll just kind of monitor. And it went very, very well, for the first few innings, and then we had, a couple things happen. But, yeah, he did a great job calling that game.
Absolutely. Coach, I'm going to let you go. I know we're going to figure out what we're going to do with practice here in a little bit. I know weather's still kind of...
Well, I know that if we don't get any more rain right now, we'll be outside, and we'll kind of make do maybe in the outfield and in the cage. But, yeah, and then hopefully we'll see what it looks like tomorrow. If we don't get any more rain, I think we'll be good for Saturday. But getting any more rain, we'll have to see what we can do.
Yep. Right now, the game's scheduled Saturday here at 2 against St. Mary's Hall. So that's the plan right now. If anything changes, of course, we'll let you all know. But that's going to wrap it up for our first episode of Behind the Scenes with Coach Steven Najera. Again, we promised you we'd be here, and we did it. We knocked it out our first episode. So, again, every Thursday, ideally outside on the field at 3. If not, weather permitting, we'll be right here in the Student Center every Thursday at 3 o'clock. This is Behind the Scenes. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure, Kevin.
We'll see you guys next week.
All right.
Ready to drive with confidence? Arroyo Driving School helps teens and adults become safe, skilled drivers. Our certified instructors teach the latest techniques to ensure you're prepared for any road. With quality vehicles and hands-on training, we give you the skills to drive responsibly. Get started today.
The standard of excellence has always been Cadillac, so be iconic and drive one. Free your Cadillac, Brownsville, Texas.
If you or someone you know is planning to retire within 6 to 12 months, please call Joe D. Garcia. Federal, city, county, state employees, and small business owners, we have you covered. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Call Joe D. Garcia from Blanket Retirement Services, 956-276-4943.
I'm Joe D. Garcia.
And I'm Rolando Trevino.
And we are Blanket Retirement Services. We have you covered.